Underground. All right, well, we were off last week, but are back to infect the airwaves with our unique blend of fantasy baseball enlightenment on RotoRob Fantasy Baseball Weekly podcast, heard every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. EST on Blog Talk Radio. We're into mid-April now, which means we're less than 8 weeks away from the 2015 MLB Draft. This week, David Wright lands on the DL with a hammy woe. A new study was released suggesting that racial hiring in baseball is stagnant, and Ian Desmond has been booting balls right, left, and center with 6 errors in his first 8 games. We're going to these stories and many more over the next 50 minutes. Bag chair and get comfy. I'm RotoRob, and my guest this week is Tim McLeod from Patton & Co. How are you this evening, Tim?
Well, I am just fine, Rob. I think I'm doing a little bit better than you because we got some serious echo happening at your end of the world. Is that a Toronto thing, or it must be those politicians causing that? I would have to say we'll blame it on Queen's Park. How's that?
Really, the echo's really bad. You know, the funny thing is showing call. All right, you know what? Why don't you talk for a second and I'll call in.
Okay, well, I can absolutely talk for a second. I can do that, Rob.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, he's turned it over to me. The control, the power, it's all mine. My evil twin, obviously. Look at the world closers out there. She's been an interesting couple weeks. Heading into the season, my immediate thoughts were that we might see a little bit more stability in 2015. And so far, the only thing stable is that Craig Kimbrell, Aroldis Chapman, and Greg Holland are, without any argument, the 3 best closers in the game. Other than that, we've seen, 6-7 changes in the first week and a half of the season, with the newest installed closer being Adam Ottavino in Colorado.
Yes.
He's had himself a solid year and a half, but
hey,
he's 2 for 2.
I was going to talk about Adam Ottavino later.
Well, guess what? You told me I had to talk about something, so
yeah, I know.
It was either that or my sailor suit. So what can I say?
This better?
Oh, yeah, that sounds better, Robert. When you put me in charge, okay, when you gave up that control, okay, it's a free-for-all.
Anything goes.
Well, yeah
I understand.
I'm a power-hungry SOB, so I just took advantage and moved right on in.
No worries, but I got to tell you, I'm not doing as well as Yasmani Thomas tonight, Tim. He's been recalled by the Diamondbacks, who are hoping he can spark the offense off the bench somehow. Anything to see there?
Well, yeah, he's a big lad. You can't miss him. You got to see him. But what's up in Arizona? They call a guy up, okay, so they can sit him on the bench and play him part time. Is it just me, or is something running very, very foul in the desert, Rob? And they've got right now a platoon situation. They got Pollock, Trumbo. And they've got a platoon with Inciarte and Peralta. And now they've brought up Tomas, who can't play third base, to work off the bench instead of getting regular at-bats down on the farm and possibly getting himself into a little bit better shape and building up some confidence. I'm lost. Your thoughts?
Well, who knows? At least they finally brought up Archie Bradley and because we've been waiting for him to make his debut forever. Of course, they start him against Clayton Kershaw. Welcome to the Bigs, kid. But what does he do? He goes out and out-pitches Kershaw. You got to like that.
Well, yeah, you got to like it. He broke camp, but at the same point in time, it's a mess. It is
a mess. Well, when Jeremy Hellickson's your number 2 starter, you know you're in trouble, right?
I would think unequivocally so, yes.
Yeah. Could be a long year in the desert. Could be, a bit of a shit show out there. They could finish much worse than Colorado, which would be kind of embarrassing.
Well, actually, Colorado's off to a fairly good start. If Cargo and Tulo can stay healthy, and if I can win Lotto Max back-to-back, which is the odds are about the same, it could be a good year for them.
We've seen Colorado start well before, and we've seen them finish very poorly. So we've seen the opposite as well. We've seen Colorado get very hot in the second half. They're a very streaky team, but they obviously need to get Jorge De La Rosa back. I just don't think they have enough pitching depth to really, make a run there. But we shall see. I mean, we know that they're going to hit the ball, at least in Colorado.
Oh yeah, there is no doubt that the ball will be bouncing around in the outfield bleachers.
Absolutely. Now, I want to remind you the chat room and phone lines are open. Right now, it's just me in the chat room. Oh, no, Tim's joined me. Hello, Tim.
Hello,
Tim and I are in the
Rob.
chat room waiting for folks to chat with. Or
I got
guests.
my binoculars out. I got a beat on it. I got it covered for you.
Beautiful. Guests, feel free to call in, 347-826-7358. Now, before we get to this week's news, I want to talk about what's going on over at RotoRob.com for a moment. On the baseball side of things, on Sunday we had the season debut of the Wire Troll, written by MLB editor Michael Seff. Part 2 of our top 70 prospects is nearly done, as is our third base ranking, so stay tuned for those articles soon. On the football side of things, yes, it's been quiet lately, but we are working on some pre-draft rankings coming soon, so don't you fret. Hockey, the season is over, but our Wire Troll All-Star team is ready to rock and will be published shortly. Basketball, the Wire Troll season finale was Sunday. Watch for our Wire Troll All-Star team soon for that sport as well. Video games, nothing new this week, but new games being added constantly, so check back soon. We recently passed 4,075 posts in the site's history. Now, guess how many you've been involved with, Tim?
Well, you know what? When you talk about posts, I don't have a clue. I'll sit on the fence for that one, Rob.
Oh, fuck. How many articles have you been involved in with RotoRob, would you say, Tim?
How many that I want to take responsibility for? Oh, about 17, Rob.
Oh, God. Why can't you just answer a question straight?
But because, Rob, I'm not working for you full time anymore, okay? Very rarely do we spend quality time bonding, okay? I tormented you for 6-7 years. If I can't get my shots in once a week, what's the purpose to life?
Fair enough, but, we are trying to have a fairly truncated show today because, the NHL playoffs are on, and I'm sure everybody's interested in getting back to watching hockey tonight, so.
You mean you are definitely not me.
when I say we, I mean me.
Okay,
yes.
Good
At any
point.
rate, would you care to take a guess there, Tim?
403.
A very good guess, but actually higher, 427. And you realize that's almost 10.5% of the articles in the site's history.
Holy mackerel. I'm a 10%er.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Just want to remind our listeners, do not forget to subscribe to RotoRob to receive daily digest of fantasy sports goodness in your inbox. We need just 5 more subscribers to reach the 200 mark. Do you subscribe, Tim?
Yes, I am a regular subscriber. I subscribe to a lot of things, Rob, and RotoRob is on the top of the list.
Excellent. So, Tim, our top
Rob.
story this week, young Miami Marlin outfielder Christian Yelich has hurt his back. He suffered a back injury Monday. What's going on there with him?
Well, it doesn't look like it was all too serious because tonight he's 1 for 3 with a stolen base. As the Marlins are taking a little bit on the chin, they're up 3-0, and they're now on the wrong side of a 5-4 score. So it looks like if Yelich can steal his first base of the year, that's definitely a good sign that whatever was ailing him, that it looks like he's back to being Christian Yelich.
Well, if he's running, that's definitely a good sign that his back's okay. Of course, he is a graduate from our top 60 prospects rankings in 2013. He drove in 3 runs Friday, including the game winner in the 10th, and then hurt himself Monday and has sat the past 2 games with Ichiro starting in his place. And the team was hopeful he'd be back tonight, so obviously that is great news because you never know. Backs are tricky, man, You could wake up the next morning feeling fine, or you could just be in traction for weeks. I don't know if you ever had a back issue, but they're hard to diagnose.
Oh, they're hard to diagnose, and usually it just takes lots of time for them to heal. Yeah, no, definitely very, very tricky. When it comes to baseball, any sort of a back injury can mean a rather long layoff. So it's very good to see Yelich back in and playing good baseball.
Yeah, he took some steps forward offensively in his first full season last year, but early on this year, he's exhibited almost no extra base power. On the plus side, he's making better contact, which has generally been his weakest area, but up until tonight, he hadn't stolen a base after getting 21 last year, so that was kind of sticking out there a little bit, Tim.
Yeah, it's I take everything in the first week and a half, 2 weeks of the season with a grain of salt, Rob. It's a long year, and players get hot, get on a streak, get on a roll. Some start slowly. As a rule, I like to get at least 2, maybe 3 weeks in even before I start really getting concerned.
Or making more of a hot start than what it is. Just a good week.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You look at Lamb in Arizona. I think he had a grand slam, and I think he's been stuck on 7 RBIs now for like 4 or 5 games. So, there are players out there that are off to slow starts, but until it becomes an extended trend, well, hey, it's just one of those things. Some start hot, some don't.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how quick the manager is to make a change too. I mean, we've not to get off topic, we've already seen that with Jed Gorko being benched early on this year, but we can talk about that later. Back to Yelich for a minute. His on-base percentage regressed slightly each year since his rookie season. They had Ichiro starting for him. He did almost nothing with his chance. He was like 1 for 4 with a strike. And we're back. I apologize for that snafu there, but something happened with Blog Talk. Both Tim and I were disconnected. I'm going to try to get Tim back on now as well. Just going to send him a note to get him to call in, and hopefully he will. I'm going to send him a text as well here. We've been pretty lucky with Blog Talk lately, but tonight, not so much. So hopefully we can get this resolved. Tim's calling back in. Tim?
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, you're back.
Blog Talk hated me. I just got the boot, and away we go.
Same as me. We both got booted out at the same time, so I apologize for that, listeners. But just to pick up where we were talking about, I was just mentioning that Christian Yelich's on-base percentage had regressed slightly each year. And Ichiro got a couple games in there and did basically nothing, and for some reason the Marlins had him batting second, I guess, because that's Yelich's normal spot, but I don't know. Yelich's also a pretty good outfielder, Tim, periodically capable of some web gems, a really strong 2014 season in the field. I wanted to ask you about his potential as a high-average hitter. I mean, we're not seeing it early on this year, but he's a .311 career hitter in the minors. Do you think that Yelich could be a player that could be a 300 better than 300 hitter in the majors in time?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that with his hit tool, you're looking at a player that I think has the potential to be at some point in time a 20 home run, 280, 10 to 15 stolen base sort of player. He stole 20 last year, and he's young, and I think he's going to continue to run in the for this year, maybe the next 2-3 in the 20 to 25 stolen base area. But as he ages, grows, matures, I think we're going to see the power start to trend upwards a little bit, and probably the speed drop off a little bit. Rob, that's
typical. That's a typical trajectory. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about the power, because to me it's a little unclear how much power he will develop. But batting in the 2-hole for the Fish, I see a lot of runs there, especially with Giancarlo Stanton batting behind him. And in fact, he's probably good for another 90 runs or so from here on out for the rest of the season, I would say.
Yeah, he's going to be a very, very productive outfielder moving forward, Rob. Very productive.
Let me ask you this. Looking in a dynasty format, would you consider Yelich to be around a top 35 keeper league player?
Top 35, maybe. I would say 30 to 50, somewhere in that range. Yeah, I'd have to take a good look at the specifics involved, but he's definitely, if you're looking at getting into a first year dynasty draft, he's definitely going to be going in a 15 team. I would have to think third round, third round, simply based on his age and the upside potential.
Fantastic. I just want to remind everyone you're listening to RotoRob Fantasy Baseball Weekly Podcast featuring our guest this week, Tim McLeod. And now a quick word from our sponsor, Side League, offering daily fantasy contests with no salary cap, no sharks, and no hassle. You can win money while you trash talk your friends. Visit sideleague.com and download our app for Android or iPhone today. Get this, enter promo code RotoRob for a free $5 deposit now. Side League, fantasy sports for everyone. Now, Tim, let's switch leagues and talk about the American League East. We also have an injury update there on Tuesday. Ivan Nova, a name we haven't heard for a while. He threw his first BP since his Tommy John surgery last April. What's going on with Mr. Nova there?
Well, actually, I would expect we're probably looking at seeing a return of Mr. Nova, probably, maybe just the beginning. No, we're almost at the beginning. I was going to say the beginning of June. He's still a ways. Still a ways away, but let's face it, the Yankees can use all the help that they can get, especially in light of the fact that Masahiro Tanaka is struggling to get to the 90-mile-an-hour mark.
Yeah, and Sabathia does not look like he's turned things around. We talked about Nova on the podcast in mid-March a year ago, and we talked about how he took a beating from the Phillies. But really, otherwise, he was actually pretty good last spring. No homers allowed in 5 starts, great command. But early on, something was clearly wrong. In his first 4 starts in the regular season, he was a bit unlucky in the results department, but it was clear something was off. He didn't look like himself at all, and sure enough, he needed Tommy John surgery and missed the rest of the season. But this is a guy, Tim, that had a breakthrough season in 2013, although, again, injuries were a factor, limited to 20 starts, but he improved his hit rates and had a pretty nice 3.10 ERA. So, I mean, yeah, he was starting to kind of come into his own there when all these injuries started to hit, Tim.
Yeah, and let's hope he gets back on the field for both his sake and the sake of the New York Yankees, who are going to need that arm in the second half, guaranteed.
Absolutely, they will. He threw 20 pitches Tuesday, and he's scheduled to throw another live batting practice tomorrow. As you alluded to, Tim, I believe he's on track to return either in late May or early June. Now, here's the question: is Ivan Nova stash-worthy?
I would monitor his progress over the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be investing right now. I think it's still a bit early, but as he gets in a little bit more work, and we start to see some sort of a firm timetable, he might be one of those guys, depending on the format you're playing, that could be worth a stash. I just think it's a little early right now. I'd like to see a little bit more and get some sort of a better timetable established. Right now, it's still pretty open, and it should be. He's coming back from Tommy John. Who knows how this thing's going to shake down over the next month or so.
Well, obviously, we're going to need to see him progress to simulated games and ultimately a rehab assignment. Once we start to see results from those rehab assignments, reports on what his velocity is like, what his secondary offerings are like, we'll get a sense of how healthy he is, what his pitch count is, things like that. We'll have a clearer idea of whether he is truly ready. In the meantime, Adam Warren's the current 5th starter, but only because Chris Capuano strained his quad in spring training. Once Capuano returns, he'll likely take over that job, but assumedly just kind of be a placeholder for Nova. Now, Nova's only 28. Could still be some upside here, Tim. Do you think?
Yeah, there could be. I'd be looking more at 2016. My biggest concern when I look at guys coming back off Tommy John, Rob, is that it's a situation where, especially from a control perspective, pitchers have a tendency to struggle in that first 2 to 3 months. It's very interesting to see what's happening right now in New York with the Mets and Mr. Harvey, because he actually had, an extra 4 to 5 months for the most part before he returned, and he's not, at least thus far, exhibiting any big control issues, something that normally happens with players coming back from Tommy John. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward whether some of these teams start extending that time frame. 12 months is pretty well considered to be the norm, but
12 months is kind of the minimum. I mean, often they quote 12 to 18 months. I mean, that used to be the standard. Now people are, obviously the rehabilitation programs are so much more refined, and it's such a common procedure that we have it down to a fine art that we can get a player back on the mound in 12 months. But, in some cases, obviously it takes longer. In some cases, it's quicker. I mean, I seem to recall a couple of years ago Tim Hudson coming back from Tommy John surgery in something like 11 months and didn't skip a beat. I mean, it varies, right?
Yeah, it does vary, and that's the problem. It's very, very tough to start projecting anything forward based on what can be very inconsistent returns that first while.
Yep. I think it's a prudent approach, especially in a keeper league, to assume that the year after recovery of Tommy John surgery is going to be very inconsistent from that pitcher. And you're not going to start seeing, him start to return to his old self until the second half of that season. You're really looking, if you're talking about a full year, then 2 years down the road where, he will, he's either going to get back to where he used to be or he's never quite going to be the same. You'll know for sure, right?
Exactly.
So we got just a couple afternoon games today, so we'll be pretty quick with the box scores here, Tim. I'll lead things off. I was watching the Royals-Twins game today, won by Minnesota 8-5. The Twins got off to a historically bad start, absolutely historically bad. After getting hammered in the opener of this series, 12-3, they bounced back to take the final two to finally earn their first series win of the year. Even so, they're still in last in the AL Central, but now they're just a half game back of Cleveland and Chicago, who are tied for third place. Minnie's power was completely AWOL, just 2 homers in the first 7 games, but they now have 3 in the last 2. They're still last in the American League, but at least showing signs of life. Definitely the offense kicked into gear with 14 hits today and 5 Twins getting at least 2 hits. Very nice to see a well-rounded attack from Minnesota today. And they even got to Kansas City's bullpen. Did you know, Tim, that the Royals' bullpen had been perfect for 23 1/3 innings to start the year until today? I mean, man.
Yeah, some impressive.
That's amazingly impressive. Yeah, Kansas City's bullpen had not been touched until today. That's really, really something. They've got a hell of a pen there. The Twins now actually have a chance to make a move with Cleveland coming to town this weekend for a 3-game series, so they can crawl out of the cellar perhaps after a bit of a sluggish start. For the Royals today, Lorenzo Cain, 3 for 4, 3 runs, 3 RBI, a walk, had his 4th double of the year, hit a 2-run homer, got a stolen base. I mean, he had a fantasy day for the ages. All he's doing now is batting .429 and slugging .714 with 11 RBI. So much for him being a bust candidate, as many expected him to be overvalued after his huge postseason, but he certainly has not started that way, I'll tell you that. Starting for the Royals today was Jason Vargas, who took the loss to drop to 1-1, and he did not help the bullpen today. He only lasted 3 innings, gave up 10 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them were earned, walked 1, struck out 1, gave up a homer. His ERA has now soared to 6.00. He actually wound up pitching to 4 batters in the 4th, didn't get anybody out before he was finally yanked, and then it was up to the KC bullpen to stop the bleeding. For the Twins, Kenneth Vargas was 2 for 4, no relation to Jason, by the way, 2 for 4 with a run and 2 RBI. Finally hit his first homer of the year, but he grounded into a double play as well. Slow start for Vargas, but he's now up to 250 with a 300 on-base percentage. There is a lot expected out of this very large man this season. And catcher Kurt Suzuki was also 2 for 4 with a run and 2 RBI, and he also hit his first homer. His slash line now is up to 200, 286, 320. That's early, so we won't call for his job yet or anything, but he's going to be hard-pressed to duplicate his big 2014 season anyhow. Tommy Milone was a starter for the Twins, and he won a second straight start. Only lasted 5 1/3, was not exactly sharp, but had lots of run support. Gave up 7 hits, 3 runs, struck out 3, walked 3, gave up a homer. Had to throw 101 pitches through 5 1/3, so the Royals worked his pitch count up very quickly. 59 of them were strikes. He also had a wild pitch in what was definitely not a quality start from Milone, yet he got another W. Glenn Perkins got 2 outs for the save, dropping his ERA to 2.45. And Tim, I believe you were checking out the Brewers and Cardinals in the NL Central there.
Yeah, the big story there, Rob, was John Lackey. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 8 punch-outs, and no earned runs. Final score, St. Louis 4, Milwaukee nothing. The big hero of the day offensively would probably be Matt Carpenter, 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. Mark Reynolds, 2 for 4, subbing for Matt Adams, who was having a day of rest. It never ceases to amaze me, Rob, how we're looking at 10 days into the season, and already people need days of rest. Man, these guys never worked Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or what's the scoop here?
Were the Brewers starting lefty?
Well, that just happened by coincidence. Yeah, that they were, but
that's why Adams was sitting.
Well,
rest.
Of course
he's got lefty-sitis. That's what he has.
Well, yeah, but, I think it was last Thursday, the Pirates determined that Gregory Polanco needed a day of rest on the 4th day of the season. The kid's 22 years old, I believe. Like, come on, give it a break. Like, hell, I could play baseball for 5 days in a row.
I can understand maybe needing a day of rest. In Texas in August and July when it's day after day 120 degrees or something like that.
Well, there you go.
I kind of get that maybe. But wow.
Yeah, no, we're seeing a lot of days of rest early on in the season. It just boggles my mind. It really does. But the final score was 4-0. Mike Fiers, not a bad outing.
And we're back again. I don't know what is going on here with Blog Talk Radio. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Rob, is this some sort of a new game? Every time we hear the beeping, we drink?
I heard 2 beeps, and then it hung up on me. The funny thing is, Blog Talk Radio's actually been pretty good lately. I remember back in the early days, we used to have problem after problem with it, kicking us off. This, that, the other thing. I mean, the most agonizing thing we've had to deal with recently is sound quality. But tonight, it is in one bitchy mood.
Well, yeah, like I got 4 or 5 beats, and then it just kicked me off. So I figured it was some new drinking game you were putting together.
No, I had the exact same thing. Perhaps we should wrap up the show before we get kicked off again. Anything else to add about the Cardinals?
No.
You were just talking about Mike Fear. You were just talking about Mike Fear's start there.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad start. 5 2/3, 7 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. The big news coming out of Milwaukee is it looks like Carlos Gomez is hitting the DL with that hamstring issue. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the Brew Crew responds to losing their all-world outfielder for a couple of weeks.
Well, they have a surplus of outfielders as it is. They have too many outfielders for too many jobs, but that definitely hurts. A couple of things I wanted to bring up before we went off the air. Tim, what the hell is going on with the stanozolol? Can you pronounce that? Stanozolol?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
It's Winstrol. It's
marketed under Winstrol. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's
within 17 days.
It's old school.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's
school.
Incredibly old school. It's what Ben Johnson got stripped of his gold medal for at the '88 Olympics.
Right.
It's the same drug.
Exactly.
I mean, that's real old school. But here's what I don't understand. You got 4 baseball players: Irvin Santana, Jenry Mejia, Arodys Vizcaino, David Rollins, suspended for 80 games each, all within 17 days of each other. But why would baseball players be using, with all the new steroids out there that are designed to beat masking tests, why are they using an old school PD that any testing mechanism will pick up?
Well, yeah, your home lab will pick that up. Dip the strip and it'll change color on you. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on. I do know though that Major League Baseball will be looking at things very, very closely to make sure that somehow there isn't a tie between the off-season regimens of these 4 players and trying to identify potential where there's a problem. Now, granted, all of them, I believe, have said that they don't know what happened. I know Irvin did, definitely.
Yeah.
Everybody's claiming innocence, and well, hey, of course everybody's claiming innocence. If you got caught for something, that's a natural reaction. But it sort of bothers me a little bit that this old school drug is starting to pop up, and I think there might be more that meets the eye, Rob. I'm sure at some point in time we will definitely find out what's going on, because Major League Baseball definitely has to be. They have to be paying attention as to what's happening here.
Well, they're starting a biogenesis type investigation to see if there's a connection, and I mean, there's no way in hell that this is a coincidence in my mind. The last player to get nailed using this drug was Rafael Palmeiro, and that was 10 years ago. I mean, I read one writer was speculating, and this sounds as good a hypothesis as any put forward, that what probably happened here is the players thought they were taking something else that had been tainted by stenazanol by a poor chemist who screwed up, and so of course it all showed up in a test, and they'll get to the bottom of it. But there's no freaking way that this is not connected somehow.
Well, yeah, I tend to agree. It's just bizarre. It really is.
It really is. David Wright, as we discussed, headed to the DL. The hope is he'll miss just 2 or 3 weeks. Eric Campbell promoted to take over third. Anything to see there, Tim?
No, I think Campbell was slotted to break camp with the team, depending on what happened, of course, with Mr. Murphy at second base. But he managed to stay healthy long enough. So, hey, first guy out of the box. And if I'm not mistaken, the last I looked tonight, he was 1 for 3 with a run, RBI. I think he'll do a fine job. And if you're looking for a fill-in for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, give him a look-see.
Campbell's your man. Yep. All right, and we were talking earlier. Well, you were talking earlier when the first time I got kicked off. Adam Ottavino, new closer in Colorado, finished the last 2 nights, 3 career saves now, looking very sharp.
Yeah, that slider is definitely getting the job done, and I drafted him right out of the blocks, as so many did in many leagues this year. I think I own Ottavino in 3 or 4 leagues, Rob, and it was one of those red flags to start the season. You're dealing with 42, 43-year-old LaTroy Hawkins, and hey, LaTroy's had a great career, but he's getting up there a little bit. When you start looking at the odds of failure, they don't get any less as a person ages. No. And I think Ottavino was one of those players. It was targeted by many people, heading into this spring as the potential replacement, and it's come to fruition. Good for Adam. He is pitching lights out.
Slow start for last year's American League batting champion, Jose Altuve, but he's turned things around now as a 6-game hit streak heading into action tomorrow. Yeah,
you got to like Altuve. I had him pegged as one of the 2 best second basemen in the game, and definitely we're going to see better days ahead for Altuve.
Well, I think he's going to be hard pressed to duplicate exactly what he did last year, but he's still a damn good player.
Well, yeah, he's not gonna hit 330, 340, but hey, the speed is very real. I think you might see a little bit more pop. He's going to score a pile of runs, especially with the Houston offense growing and maturing behind him on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, hey, if you're looking at a second baseman, .290, .300, 45 plus stolen bases, pile of runs scored, and 7 to 10 home runs.
To me, the big growth. To me, the big growth opportunity for him this year is in runs scored. Absolutely, that's where he can really improve upon his numbers. We talked about this earlier in the week, Tim. Mike Trout recently played his 500th big league game, and through 500 career games, he has the 6th highest offensive win percentage behind Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, Mickey Mantle, and Lou Gehrig. I mean, it's early days in Trout's career, but to mention him on the trajectory of those kind of players, it blows my freaking mind, Tim.
Well, Mike Trout is not your everyday run-of-the-mill player. I believe
really?
the term. Yeah, well, I know it's shocking, isn't it? I'm just a storehouse of veritable.
Stating the obvious, Captain Obvious there.
Well, hey, you know how many hours I spent researching that last statement, Rob? If it was any other show other than yours, I wouldn't have put in that level of effort, okay?
God, you are a sarcastic son of a bitch, aren't you?
Well, thank you, yes.
I mean, I don't know.
You should know that. You edited my work for long enough. You know I can't spell, and you know I'm sarcastic.
But, I mean, honestly, when I read that sentence about where he stands in history, like, the words don't even come to... there are no words. It's just, my mouth is just ajar in amazement.
Well, yeah,
I feel...
the only problem, per se, that has happened as a result of the brilliant start to Mike Trout's career is I think it has tended to skew the fact that everybody looks at young players now and sets the bar a little bit too high. Mike Trout is a once-in-a-generation type player. There are a lot of good young players in the game, but I think because of Mike Trout's efforts and his level of production, I think people might be skewing the perceived value of some of these younger players a little bit too high, Rob.
Well, and what's really amazing is the players that are listed above him all come from hitting eras. And Trout's doing this in a pitching era, which is even more remarkable when you think about it. So what has he done this season? He started the season on a 9-game hit streak. What's his slash line? 438, 500, 594. Yeah, that'll do, I guess.
Well, I think he's stolen a couple bases, too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, and considering the fact that Cole Calhoun's been out of the lineup much of the early season, which is RBI opportunities with Calhoun's strong OBP, it's not a bad start. He might actually be an all-star come July, Rob.
Going out on a limb again, are you, Tim?
Well, you know what? They don't call me Kreskin Jr. for nothing.
The White Sox sent Jake Patrica to AAA on a rehab assignment. He was dealing with a strained forearm this spring, which is always a red flag. But this is a kid who had 14 saves last year to lead all rookies while compiling a very nice 2.96 ERA in 67 games. I mean, obviously, with David Robertson in town, it's going to take an injury for Patrica to get another crack at closing. But what do you think of this kid?
Well, I think it says it all. He had a decent year last year, but the White Sox thought so highly of him, they brought in David Robertson. Need I to say more?
Well, I mean, sometimes handing a closing job to a really young kid is not necessarily doing him a service. Sometimes, it's often better to get a full year as an 8th inning guy under your belt where you see more success. A lot of young pitchers just don't have the makeup to really take that. It's hard enough adjusting to the bigs already. Now you got to adjust to a pressure situation. It's not easy. I don't care how good your arm is or how good your stuff is. Yeah,
and then you take a look at the Jays, okay, who are wheeling out Miguel Castro and Osuna, okay, who combined are 2 years less in age than LaTroy Hawkins.
They're half a Hawkins.
Nobody's half Nobody's half a Hawkins except I think there's this kid in Japan. No, forget about it. Go ahead.
So, Tim, now's the time of the evening, your favorite time of the evening, where you get to put on your big furry hat with your little feather in it and pimp away.
Oh, hey, Rob, you've met me. You know me. You know I'm not a pimp. That ain't happening. Kathy has rules, by the way. Basically, I want to thank you again for having me on and putting up with my sarcasm and attempted wit, Rob. You can find me at Pat.
Well, you were only...
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks to Blog Talk Radio, you were the second most irritating thing tonight, Tim.
Well, oh man, it gives me a target. Goals are very important, Rob. Have me on again. I can prove you wrong. I really can.
Okay, so what do you got to pimp for us this evening?
Well, yeah, you can find me over at Patton and Company. I'm also involved with a Sunday podcast, Prospect 361 on Blog Talk. You can catch myself and Rich Wilson every Sunday evening where we tear apart the game and have a pile of fun. And basically, that would be it for the most part. If you have any questions, if you're looking to get a hold of me, the Prospect 361 Facebook page, I'm hanging out there as well. And you can find me at Timothy LMC on Twitter, Rob. And thanks so much for having me on. And like I said, goals are important. Invite me back. I'll prove you wrong. I'm that sort of guy.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to end the show with some Sean Mulray, and we'll see you all next week. Hopefully, Blog Talk Radio will be a little bit more accommodating next week. Knock on wood. Have yourself a great evening there, Tim.
Yeah, you too, Rob.